continue to our very last part of this ancient Greek civilization, and we'll talk about the legacy. What the ancient Greeks have left to us that we're still being influenced or affected by them nowadays. Look at your notes, we've divided it into several aspects, so we'll talk about it one by one. Firstly, the architectural style. So look at the picture on your left hand side. It's the famous Parthenon, the temple for Athens. The ancient Greeks, they like to use this kind of building materials that we call them marbles. And we can also see that these are the significant building feature of this kind of architecture that is the tall stone columns and pillars. And in fact, we are still seeing this kind of architectural style nowadays, such as this one, the old Legislative Council building in Hong Kong. It's in the Hong Kong Island, in the central station. So you can write down here. Today, in different parts of the world, not just Hong Kong, in also United States, Europe, there are also still different kinds of buildings following the old Greek culture or using the old Greek architectural styles, such as this one. And not just in the architectural aspect, we also have the political systems being affected by ancient Greek. That is, this word democracy. We learned that 民主. Democracy was invented by the Athenians, that people, each of them can cast their vote and then vote for some of the important issues. And that process, we call that an election. Okay, so write down election. Now, they also invented another thing, that is the secret ballot, 不記名投票, so that no one will be punished for, let's say, voting the no, or no one will be rewarded for voting yes. It creates a more fair, more healthy kinds of political system that no one could be easily abusing it. And also there is the important judicial system called the jury system, 陪審團. So we learned that in ancient Greeks, in ancient Athens, there was actually a kind of people's court, that these kind of jury, 陪審團, were actually being randomly selected from the people, from the commoner, and they would go on to the people's court and then judge for some important cases, such as the Socrates cases. And all these things were actually to ensure fairness. And nowadays we have many countries or regions adopting the democratic system. We can no longer maybe vote for the one issue or one important proposal with one vote, one by one, but then we can vote our representative. For example, in the Legislative Council election, although we cannot vote for, let's say, we cannot vote for yes or no for each motive, but we can vote for the representative to represent us, to vote in the Legislative Council. So nowadays, in Hong Kong, in other countries, they can vote for their presidents and vote for small things. They can have a referendum because 公投咧喺一啲重要嘅情況之下都可以一人一票嘅。For example, the Brexit thing is voted by each citizen. So some of the important decision of the country can also be voted by each citizen. And then we also have the language and writing system being affected by the ancient Greeks. So we learned that actually learned that the ancient Greeks, they have 24 letters, alphabetical letters created by the ancient Greeks. And actually Latin and also English were being affected by them. So you learn these, I've mentioned some of these in your lessons. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, C, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. Many of them were actually being used in mathematics or physics. For example, alpha, beta, and theta, and so on. Lambda are used in physics. Omega used for electricity, I think. Some other. Pi, for sure. Pi is the 圆周嘛, okay? And also, like something like delta. Delta is used in geography, using to describe the triangular 三角洲. Okay, let's say the Pearl River Delta, the triangular geographical feature of some of the places. And these Greek alphabetical letters were actually still affecting nowadays, because many English letters and symbols were using the Greek letters, and also some of the words, nowadays the words, they will also come from the Greek expression, such as, when you look at this word, biologia, then you can guess. In English, it should be biology. Because in Greek, that bio is something like related to lives, and then logia is to the study of that. So, for example, you would know some other cases such as theology, 神學. Then theo is about God, and the G is the study of that thing. So theology is the study of God, 神學. And also academia, in nowadays we call that the academy or academic. 學術啦，學院啦. Technique, then is technique. Okay, many of modern English words were actually transformed from the Greek words. Then we have some literature also. This picture on your left-hand side is the Aesop's Fables. 中文就係伊索寓言啦. So it's believed that this Aesop Fables was made up by a ancient Greek called Aesop, mainly talking about some animals and some of the important messages brought by these animals. These stories were still very popular nowadays, because we still hear a lot of these stories very often, such as the tortoise and hare, 龜兔賽跑, okay, is being used in many ways. In television, in movies, many people are being affected by this story. Many people still use this story to teach their children. It may be one of the first stories that you've heard since you've born. The boy who cried wolf, 狼來了, is used to teach the kids not to lie so often. These stories are still affecting the days and the children, especially for the education to the children. And in the fourth aspect, it was about philosophy. The philosophy is also a kind of English word nowadays, but it's also from Greek. That is about the love of wisdom. This is also separating in two parts. Philo is to love something, and then Sophie is about wisdom. Sophia actually. So if there's a girl called Sophia, it's actually the name has a meaning of wisdom. Okay. So philosophy comes from ancient Greek, especially from Athens. There were many important Greek thinkers, such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They are the very first group of people who asked about the questions of, let's say, life, existence, why are we men, and what is the meaning of living on Earth? These kind of questions. And they wrote books, and for example, Aristotle, he was actually the teacher, the master of Alexander the Great, while Plato actually created the very first philosophical schools called the Academy at that time in the city-states, and everyone can go inside and to learn and to discuss these kind of philosophical questions. So that's why academy nowadays is used as a 學院派, these kind of ideas. It comes from the schools created by Plato. Now these group of people, then you can look at your notes, Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, they are the famous philosophers and also being regarded as the founders of Western philosophies. Many famous thinkers later on was being affected by Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, their ideas, such as Plato actually, apart from using these philosophical ideas, he also wrote a book about republic, what is a ideal society. Aristotle also wrote about different things about political systems, what should be the best form of political systems. These kind of ideas affected the political transformations, philosophical transformation in later on societies. And then let's go to the medicine. Medicine, this guy is very important. It's called Hippocrates. Hippocrates is the father of medicine. He developed a lot of new and scientific ideas about illness. For example, at that time, people might still think that illness or diseases will come from gods or was related to superstition. But then he was actually suggesting that these kind of things were medical conditions. He was the very first person suggesting these were no relationship with any gods or goddesses or any kind of beliefs, but a kind of medical conditions. And he also was a professional surgeon at that time, that he started to help people with their illness injuries by doing surgeries. So nowadays, still a lot of people are being affected by this professionalism, especially the doctors to be. The graduates from the medical schools nowadays are required to swear this Hippocratic oath, 希波克拉底誓詞. It was believed to be written by him, but then later on people doubted this. But this is not important. The most important thing there is that people generally recognize that he was the very first group of people suggesting about medical ethics, 醫學道德, and also emphasize the professionalism when we are doing surgeries or we are doing medical related occupation. So this is still very important, affecting the world nowadays. Finally, we have the sports. This is much introduced in last lesson, so it's just a revision for you. The Asian Olympic Game was held to worship and entertain the gods. In Olympia, different forms such as wrestling, running, all these kind of things, and they are important because it's symbolizing the peace among the city-states. Nowadays, people trying to find back this old and good practice and use it as an way to connect the people living around the world. So we have the modern Olympic Games. It was to promote peace and cultural exchange in different countries. Just by looking at the logo, it's connecting 5 continents, so that we can see the Greek culture is still very, very influential until nowadays. So then let's go back to the research exercise, and you can give some answer. First question: give one example to show how Athens affected today's political system. So then you can write down that Athens is related to democracy, so that people learn from Athens would practice the form of democratic political system. They will vote for their government through election. Okay, so you can write down. People have learned from Athens, and they nowadays vote for their own government through a form of voting system that is called election, 選舉. And then these people will be representing the people to make the important decisions. Who were regarded as the founding fathers of modern philosophy? We have 3 founding masters of modern philosophy. 哲學三傑啊. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They are the masters of one another. Socrates is the master of Plato. Plato is the master of Aristotle. And they are the master of many, many different people. So then this comes to the end of our ancient Greek civilization. Okay, please make sure you've written down all these answers here.